Every year Call of Duty drops their yearly title, and we all flock to it like sheep to unlock our guns and get some camos for a month or two before we get bored and either go play Warzone or just fall off the game until next year. But hidden beneath that is sometimes a very fun campaign experience that can fill a night or two of play. Well, unfortunately, Modern Warfare 3's campaign is not that. And it's probably the worst Call of Duty campaign I have ever had the displeasure of playing. Is it utter unplayable trash like some other games we've gotten this year? No. But for a $70 price tag, sporting a campaign that one can blast through in 3 to 4 hours, it feels like the tacked on campaign that everyone says Call of Duty always has, but in reality it's usually not the case. The 2019 Modern Warfare and 2022 Modern Warfare 2's campaigns both seemed like a return to form and were well liked by fans. But this title's entry to the franchise seems like nothing more than a waste of time. So let's get into why the campaign feels so underwhelming. So before we get too deep, I'll mostly avoid spoilers. We're not going to really talk about the story at all. It's kind of underwhelming, but I won't mention much more about it. But we are going to talk about some of the missions in the game, so I may mention set pieces or something later in the game. So if you don't want spoilers at all, I'd probably close the video. But if you're okay with some gameplay related things and just not story beats, then you'll be fine. So Modern Warfare 3's campaign utilizes a variety of mission styles. You have the more linear set piece style focused missions that you're used to in the different Call of Duty campaigns, and then you have these weapon open missions that are a bit more open-ended. They usually have a few objectives that you can choose to do in different orders, and since they're more open, they're not linear. Now these are something that Activision or Infinity Ward or Sledgehammer, whoever made this campaign, were kind of hyping up beforehand as something that was supposed to be new and a cool new experience in the Call of Duty campaign. However, unfortunately, I feel like they just totally missed the mark. If you played DMZ in last year's campaign, it's basically that, but with a little bit higher production value. The only problem is, DMZ was fun because it was multiplayer and it had PvP and you could play with your friends. You could grind out the different camos and weapons and do challenges and all that. Well, this is just a campaign where you go around and fight pretty dumb AI in whatever order you want, and sometimes it utilizes really bad forced stealth. Now the weapons open missions have loot crates around the map that you can go and pick up for better weapons. Sometimes you can find kill streaks. On one of the missions later in the game, I found a chopper gunner and it made the level a complete cakewalk, so I guess that was kind of fun. But the levels kind of reward you for, walking around and looking for different things, whether it's a blinged out weapon with lots of attachments, or in my case, finding a chopper gunner. Now the exact style of these weapons open missions varies. Some of them are much more kind of stealth based, and some of them are more just like go to the different objectives and complete them, and it doesn't really matter. They all utilize this sort of aggro system where when you're, hidden or you're not detected, then you can kind of move around, and then it turns yellow if someone sees you or they're weary of you, and then it turns red when you've kind of alerted them, and that's usually when like a bunch of enemies start coming at you from on the map. Some of the levels also have like alarm systems that if they get triggered, a ton of enemies come. So in those cases, the goal is to, take out 1 or 2 enemies at a time so that you don't end up with a ton of enemies coming at you. But if you want to take on the mission that way, it is an option. Though on higher difficulties that can get pretty hard as you end up with a lot of people, some with armor, all coming at you at the same time. At first the weapons open missions do seem kind of fun, but you quickly realize they're just sort of badly paced and they kind of just seem slapped in to expand the length of the campaign, and in my opinion they aren't nearly as good as the more linear missions that not only does this campaign have, but also every other Call of Duty ever. I think Call of Duty is at its best when the game is basically an action movie. You have your shooting galleries and your set pieces, and if you go all the way back to, the original Call of Duty campaigns, that's kind of what they revolutionized. It was taking a more open or grand campaign and focusing it so you could have lots of set pieces and you could have lots of scripted things happen so that it feels really fun, but at the same time, on higher difficulties, they were still very difficult. And this campaign is also very difficult on the higher difficulties, but it's not necessarily because the AI is good or anything like that. It's because the checkpoint system is absolutely terrible and the forced stealth sections are really bad. There's also some really annoying mechanics in some of the levels. Like there's one where you have to walk through a kind of base, and if you get too close to any of the enemies, they just identify you and then the whole base starts shooting you. And this one was just frustrating because there isn't like a bar or anything showing if you're too close. You basically just, as you're walking by, some of the enemies will be like, oh, I don't recognize who that is. And if it just happens a couple times, you just basically fail the whole mission. Modern Warfare 3's campaign also does include a sort of no Russian mission, and I won't spoil the whole mission, but basically it doesn't have nearly nearly the impact the original one had in Modern Warfare 2 back in 2009, partly because, you know, we knew it was coming, and back then I had no clue I was getting into that mission, but I think the tone of it is a little different. I think the original one was much better done. You also don't have very much enemy variety in the campaign. Not that that's something that Call of Duty campaigns ever really do, but kind of just worth mentioning. You basically just fight the regular dudes with bad AI. Sometimes there's a sniper, sometimes there's dudes with armor, and then there's a couple times in the campaign where you fight like actual juggernauts, and that's basically it. There's a few sections where people come on helicopters or vehicles and you have to take them out, but for the most part it's mostly on-ground combat. There is one mission where you're like the support piece in the air and you get to fire on all the people, which is something I feel the Call of Duty campaigns have done multiple times, and it's usually a nice change of pace, and it is in this case too. Overall, there are some new weapons in the game because, you know, it's Modern Warfare 3, but a lot of them are also just brought over from Modern Warfare 2, and unless you played a lot of Modern Warfare 2, honestly all the guns just feel the same, so you're probably just going to feel like you're still playing MW2. Like I mentioned earlier, the story is pretty meh. There are a decent variety of environments though in the campaign. You know, there's snowy levels, there's nighttime levels, there's like a dam, there's some stuff in a desert. One time you have to go to a crashed plane site, so there's a variety of different stuff. The game though is very short. I think I beat it in about 5 or 6 hours, but that was because I kept getting stuck on the stupid stealth sections. Eventually I just turned the difficulty down and kind of blasted through it to get through the rest of it. And yeah, that's pretty much the Modern Warfare 3 campaign. So it's a $70 game. Is it worth your money? If you plan on playing the multiplayer, sure, pick it up, play through it once, kind of see what it's like, or check it out, play a couple missions, and if you don't like the weapons open stuff, just kind of fall off of it, and then just play the multiplayer. If you don't plan on playing the multiplayer, or you are someone that wanted a good single player experience, this is definitely not worth it. I also forgot to mention there's like this loadout system where once you fail a mission or you load into a mission for like the second time, you can kind of pick your loadout, which is where you can use some of the weapons and the gadgets that you found on the different levels. But it's weird because they're isolated to each level, so you have to find the same equipment on every level, and the weapons don't carry over from level to level. So if you're only playing through it once, you won't really have a ton of options unless you're really searching all over the map for all the different pickups. I'm sure everyone has seen it. IGN gave this a 4 out of 10, which for IGN is pretty hilarious, and I think that might be a little too harsh. I mean, the gameplay is still pretty good. You know, the gunplay of Call of Duty is great. If you're just looking for some mindless shooting of AI, it's not horrible, but it's also not good. So it's hard for me to give it a rating. I'm not a huge fan of the out of 10 system anyways. 4 out of 10 might be a little low, but at the same time, when I was playing through the game, there was also a ton of sections where I was super annoyed and bored, so maybe 4 out of 10 works. I also just want to mention the UI real quick before we kind of wrap up the video. The UI for this game is horrible. So Modern Warfare 3 is in the same application as Modern Warfare 2 on PC. If you're on console, it might be different, I don't know. But to play the Modern Warfare 3 campaign, you have to launch the Call of Duty application, then you have to go into the UI, find the box for the Modern Warfare 3 campaign, click that, and then it has to relaunch the game, and then you can play the Modern Warfare 3 campaign. So you have to launch the game multiple times just to play it. It did this during the beta, and I thought there's no way this will be there for the actual game. I just thought it was because it was the beta, but no, this is there for the full game. So I don't know who designed that. I don't know why these are all jammed into the same application if they're gonna have to relaunch and stuff like that. It just feels horrible. It's a waste of time, it's clunky, and it's really frustrating even though it doesn't actually affect the gameplay or anything like that. But yeah, that's pretty much the Modern Warfare 3 campaign. I would not recommend this one. It is not really worth your time or money unless you're just curious. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you all next time.